Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace to all the listeners. We are once again joining Bismi Radio's Nam Sirappu Virindinar series, which has so far done 20 odd and growing. Bismi Radio has been serving not just the Indian Muslim community, but the regional Indian community for over 7 years in serving some half a million and more listenership in over 100 countries. In many homes, we do know and realize it has become the landing radio station, giving them the comfort, just like how we have the comfort food. People are going to Bismi Radio to get connected, either to listen to our always favorite Ia Manifa songs or for their daily spiritual dosage. We thank Bismi for this wonderful service that they are doing, and we hope listeners will continue to share their good work all over the world and give them every support that you can give. Today, we are meeting S. Devendran, CEO of Sri Narayana Mission Nursing Homes, and he is a veteran community leader and has been in the community service for many decades. We welcome Devendran, and we call him affectionately as Dave, and he will, I am sure, give us a lot of sharing that will benefit both the Indian and the Indian Muslim community. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Raj.
Sri Narayana Mission has been in Singapore, and I see your website has been offering nursing homes, senior care centers in various places, and including community programs. But before we come on to your professional part of your life and your journey, let the listeners get to know you a little bit more. Can you tell us a bit about your background and what led you to your current role?
I'm mindful of the fact that Bismi has a huge listenership that spans the region. So let me begin by saying that I am a second generation Singaporean Indian. My father was born in Singapore and I was born in Singapore. My paternal grandparents were born in India, in Tamilnadu, Tanjore district, specifically a village in Tanjore district called Tirumakote. And my paternal grandfather came here as a young teenager and eventually, found work in the Raffles Hotel and rose to, for Asians, a pinnacle position, chief receptionist at the hotel front desk. My father started his working life as a teacher. And then when confrontation came, the confrontation between Indonesia and Malaysia, and Singapore was part of Malaysia then, my father volunteered with the Royal Malayan Volunteer Reserve, served with the Royal Malaysian Navy during confrontation, 1963 to 1965. And then when confrontation ended and Singapore became independent, he continued serving with the Singapore Navy. I myself went to school here in Singapore, Christian Brothers schools, La Sallian schools, St. Michael's Primary School, St. Joseph's Institution, and then Catholic Junior College. My pre-university days I spent in Catholic Junior College. And after that, enlisted to serve national service with the Singapore Army, was selected for Officer Cadet School in Singapore, disrupted halfway through my training in the Officer Cadet School in Singapore. I was sent overseas by the Singapore Army. I spent the next 4 years training with the Indian Army. I spent 3 years as a cadet at the National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla in Pune, Maharashtra, and 1 year in the Indian Military Academy in Dehradun. It was probably the most significant of the formative years of my life. Much of what I am today, the way I think, the way I approach issues and problems, is shaped by the military training that I received. I'm very proud, to be part of the alumnus of the National Defense Academy of India. My course mate, the same batch as me, the 66th course, is currently the Indian Navy Chief, Admiral Dinesh Tripathi, and he took office in April this year. And the current Indian Army Chief, General Dwivedi, who took office in June this year, was in the same squadron as I was when we were cadets. He was my senior by 6 months. So many friends, my batchmates and classmates, we still keep in touch thanks to social media. We have had reunions at the academy, and at various establishments where they have served. We still keep our links. I'm very, very proud and privileged with that relationship. I myself, after finishing my training, came back to Singapore and served with the Singapore Army for the next 20 odd years. When I left the Army, I was a deputy chief of an Army logistics headquarters. And my foray into social work was actually because of a psychometric profiling test, which was the only one I've ever done in my life. It was part of the exit management process for senior officers. And, the results of that psychometric profiling, when it came out, suggested that I should consider becoming a lawyer. The second option was to consider becoming an administrator. The third option was to consider becoming a social worker. And the fourth option was to consider becoming a priest. It was a big joke in my family, Why, if I married, I have 4 daughters, all grown up, and all working. I remember at that time, this is back in 2007, I think. She said, yes, you can go ahead and become a priest, and leave us to carry on with life. I decided on the third option, which is to come into social service. To me, it is an extension of what I did as a soldier. What always amazes me when I think about it and I reflect on it is that, in the 24, 25 years that I spent in uniform, I was basically a soldier trained to be prepared to destroy in order to preserve. And very sadly, we see examples of that all around us, even as I speak. It's a tragedy. It's a human tragedy. It's a tragedy to humanity. It's the ultimate zero-sum game. Nobody wins in wars. Everybody loses. And but in my case, those same skill set which I acquired as an officer, a military officer, in the social service sector, it results in possibilities. It results in hope. So you see, forgive me if I go a bit spiritual here, but God in his infinite wisdom puts the options in front of you. He gives you the intellect to discover science, develop, equipment, new ways, technology, but he leaves it up to you on how you want to use it. You can either use it to create hope, or you can use it to destroy. And my own example is a perfect testimony to this, because it's the skill set I acquired as an officer, which I'm now using in the social service sector, where maybe if you do things right, 1+1 maybe will equal 2.5. Maybe if we do things right, it will matter to that one starfish, and the choice is left to us. And I'm so very humbled and grateful that in the second half of my life, I have an opportunity to create possibilities.
From your response, it has become very apparent that the army life has almost left an indelible, what would I say, effect in you, in the way you think, you behave, and your character. And so that's why I'm trying to know. But having known you as a person, you're very approachable, affable, and I've seen how kind of people person you are. And yet people tend to look at the army person as someone very regimental, strict and tough, and etc. So I want to know, how do you reconcile that part of it? Because it is very important. How do you manage it? Because you are managing people in your current capacity as a CEO. Would you like to share some of those,
Yes,
please?
yes. Try to explain this to people. I certainly try to explain this to my subordinates. There is actually no real difference. Any human endeavor, whether you are are in the military or you are, running your own business, you're a teacher, you work for the government service. Any human endeavor is about human beings. It's about human relationships. It's about managing people. We cannot escape from that. And the way I would describe this extract, okay, from the speech given by the guest of honor at the official opening of the Indian Military Academy, you know, in 1932. That extract from that speech has become, okay, the credo of the Indian military. And if I may, let me share this. And it goes something like this. The safety and honor of your country comes first, always and every time. The safety and welfare of the men you command comes next, always and every time. Your own safety and welfare comes last, always and every time. So coming back to what the question that you asked me, if I have that as my guiding principle, whether it was in the military or even now in the social service sector, especially in the subsector which I operate in, running nursing homes and welfare homes for the less privileged, uh, we offer a roof over their heads for people who are vulnerable, elderly. And, it is our duty to look after them. And so I tell my staff that in this business that we are in, we are here to do God's work. And in doing God's work, we must be prepared not just to get our hands dirty, we must be prepared to get our fingernails dirty. It's very simple. If we do our work well, then my senior citizens, my seniors who live in my nursing homes, when they hear footsteps in the wee hours of the morning, and they'll say, the older you get, the less sleep you need. And so many of my seniors, they'll wake up very early in the morning, and sometimes it's just a few hours of sleep. And so I tell my staff that when my seniors are awake in their bed, in their room, and they hear footsteps in the corridor, we have to run the home in such a manner that my residents believe God is walking the corridors, that they are not alone. And that's the way I manage it. If you ask my staff what are my favorite responses, whenever they ask me when do I need them to complete a particular assignment or a job, I will tell them I needed you to complete it yesterday. Yes, I have very exacting standards. I demand a lot from my staff, but again, this is something that I learned training with the Indian Armed Forces. Never ask your subordinate to do what you yourself cannot do, right? And another swing thought, a particular commandant of the academy once shared this story. He says, when I was a young officer, the general asked me, what is the limit of an Indian soldier? And the answer given was, the limit of the soldier is the limit of his officer.
Mm.
See, so, you lead by example, you lead from the front, and you make sure you look after the less privileged. So my work in the social service sector, to me, is an extension of my work as a military officer.
Fantastic.
It is to look after the less privileged in my country, make sure no one gets left behind, and do whatever we can, to embrace our common humanity. The big difference I see, which personally resonates with me, is that I'm no longer, in a zero-sum game where I must be prepared to destroy. I am now in a sector where, we are in the business of giving hope. We are in the business of making life better for our fellow human beings. And it's as simple as that. The color of our blood is red. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. We are human beings. We are poorer when we go against each other. We are many, many times more stronger when we move together as one. And that's the same thing I say in the community. I'm ready always to work with everyone and anyone, regardless of race, language, or religion, who is out there to try to make a difference in the lives of the less privileged.
Well said, Dave. There was a lot to unpack in that statement from saying you're doing God's work, very noble indeed, and it must be very sad with many of your residents sometimes do not have extension family members to give them that social support. Now, you may sound coming from the army very sure, confident, and whatsoever, but I am sure you must have your own challenges in the role that you're in. Would you like to share about those challenges and how do you overcome them?
Well, in this particular sector that my current organization, Sri Narayan Mission, we operate in, it's a subsector of the healthcare sector. We call it the community care or elder care sector. That's lots that's happening in the sector today, because Singapore is aging rapidly. By 2026, Singapore will become a super age society, meaning around 27% of our population will be age 65 and above. By 2030, 1 in 4 Singaporeans will be age 65 and above. Okay, so we are aging, and with it comes a whole set of social challenges, which I will say very frankly and honestly, Singapore is doing very well to prepare itself for the changing social dynamics that will come with aging. Um, at the same time, my organization is growing. Today, I operate one nursing home. In the next 4 years, I'll be operating another two nursing homes. So from managing 224 beds by 2028, 2029, I'll be managing just a shade shy of 1,000 beds. So we are very much part of the effort that the Singapore government is putting into place to prepare for the future. So there's lots and lots to do, new licensing regulations that we need to keep abreast of and be aligned to. And sometimes I wish I had 25 hours, 26 hours in a day. Fortunately, we all only have 24 hours. Um, so being able to multitask, being able to delegate, and being uncompromising on deadlines is the way to manage the thing. I always find that, when I'm engaged in getting it done, whatever it may be, it's actually less stressful than sitting and doing nothing and, getting overwhelmed by, oh my goodness, there's so many things to do. Again, this is military training, okay? Many things are happening. You decide which is the most important thing that needs to be dealt with first, deal with it, and then get on to the next thing. I'm very, very blessed to have a very good management team, very good staff. I know I push them hard, but they deliver. And I'm also very fortunate together the rest of my management team to be blessed with a very supportive board. They're all volunteers, people who serve in my board. They offer their time and services, for free. In fact, today being a Saturday, earlier this morning we had a board meeting. So imagine, it's a Saturday and I've got my board members who turn up for a meeting on a Saturday morning. So very, very blessed. No one can do anything alone.
Mm.
Okay, we do it as a team. Okay, we collect and leverage on everyone's strengths to get things done. So in that sense, I'm very, very blessed. Okay, so these are the conditions that has resulted in SNM now on what I call a growth trajectory. We are growing. We're going to be operating more nursing homes, and we've got very strong support
Yeah.
from not just the board and my staff. We've got very strong support from the community, and for that, I want to thank all the listeners. All of you are part of the success story. All of you are part of this story. And I want to thank all of you. And what I can assure everyone is that SNM will continue to strive to do its best to look after the less privileged seniors in our midst.
Excellent. Yes, Dave, I have personally seen how um, conducive an environment you're trying to make in uh, the office space there on a few occasions that we've had the privilege to be at the homes. And I've also seen how the board members have been very supportive of the management. I think that is something many others can learn from and emulate. So, congratulations, and we pray that that continues. Next, coming on to you, and I want to know, where do you draw your own motivation and inspiration from? Because I've seen you in 10 places at the same time. So I'd like to know, where do you draw that motivation? How do you keep yourself at the same high level? Because if you do not have a motivated leader, it will have definitely impacts on the institution and eventually on the productivity and the performance. Would you like to share something about it?
It goes back to the formative years and the values that you pick up. I will tell you honestly that, if I had to live my life again, based on, my inclinations and the things that I naturally gravitate towards, maybe, seriously considered a career, in sales or in, foreign affairs, and because I like meeting people, and it resonates with me when, when a group of people come together to try to make a difference to the community or society. It is, my years in the military, I would say, kind of made it a little narrow in terms of my interactions with the larger society. But this a fortuitous decision that I made, to join the Singapore Indian Development Association in 2009. And it is because of my time in Sinda, that I got to know my own community that much better. Raj, you were alluding to the fact that, you've known me for many years, and it is because of Sinda that I got to know organizations like the Singapore Kadir Nallur Muslim League, Nasir Ghani, yourself, Masudu, all these people, various Indian community organizations, WIMA, Federation of Indian Muslims, Tamil Representatives Council, the Little India Shop Owners and Heritage Association. It's wonderful, to work with community organizations. It's wonderful to be part of initiatives that is, trying to uplift the community. It's wonderful, to be part of the collective. We are only as strong as our weakest link, and we are very, very fortunate and privileged to be part of multiracial Singapore. Singapore Indians in Singapore are 10%, 10% of 3.7 million people. And yet, we are a minority, but in all aspects, we live our lives not as minority, but as equal citizens of this country. And that's why I always tell people, I always describe myself not as an Indian Singaporean, you know, because that would mean I'm an Indian who happens to be Singaporean. I describe myself as a Singaporean Indian. I am a Singaporean who happens to be Indian, you know, and I'm very thankful for the opportunities that have been given to me because I am a Singaporean. And that makes the work of looking after the seniors in this country that much more meaningful to me. Because all of us who are Singaporeans, certainly those who are in my age group, we owe a lot to our pioneers. The government tries to recognize them with pioneers, as describing them as pioneers, with the pioneer generation and the Merdeka generation. But, it is these people who helped to build this country. It is these people, led by a great team of leaders, who, as I like to say, laid the railroad tracks and built the bullet train that has brought Singapore from third world to first in 58 years. I always tell people, if you ask my residents, or for that matter, you ask residents in any nursing home, if given a choice, they would not want to be in a nursing home. They would want to be in community, living in their community, surrounded by family and friends, and being able to age in community. They come into the nursing home not so much because of their medical issues. They come because for various reasons, the family support, the social support is not there. and we owe it to these pioneers who have literally, given their blood, sweat, and tears to build this country.
Mhm.
We owe it to them to make sure that their final years, are lived with dignity that they deserve.
Yeah. I like to draw on that response. You have had the front seat observations. Uh, what would some of the things you hope that the Indian community become aware of or even be prepared, since you have seen those who have in your homes and the fast aging community that we are in? Are there things that we as a community can work on to try and achieve what you just said, having the final years in a very dignified way and not uh, put away
Well,
into
yeah,
a lone
thank
home?
you. Thank you for that question. Um, so let me begin first with, the community care side of the house, since that's where my core work is these days. So, the government, to prepare for this future, where there are going to be many more seniors in our midst. Okay. When you say that, when we think about it, in less than 10 years' time, there's going to be one elderly, you know, one in four, one elderly in every four Singaporeans that you see. So that means our children and our children's children are going to see a lot more seniors around them than we did when we were growing up. Now, in order to prepare for this, okay, the government has now launched, I call them two strategic initiatives. One is Healthier SG, and that is for everyone. Okay. And basically, Healthier SG is saying you need to take charge of your health. You need to be active, exercise, eat, healthily, so as to reduce, the chances of picking up chronic illnesses like, hypertension and diabetes. Or if you do pick this up, you live a healthy lifestyle to manage these chronic illnesses well. And these days, there's also mental health that needs to be looked at. And, the uh, anecdotal evidence would seem to suggest that, in the Indian community, issues like mental health, tend to be swept under the carpet. And I want to say that, look, there are interventions, okay, that are there to help everyone. Okay. So no one needs to suffer in silence, as a caregiver or even as someone with these issues. There are interventions available. Please reach out and take advantage of these interventions, utilize them, you know, to the fullest. That's Healthier SG. There's another strategic initiative called Age Well SG. Now, this is targeted primarily at the senior. And the whole idea of Age Well SG is as we age, we talk about our golden age, we should be availing ourselves of those interventions and initiatives offered in our active aging centers, offered in our senior care centers. And the government is setting these up across the island in, void deck spaces within the HDB estates. And these are really meant for the seniors, to avail themselves of a place where they can socialize and interact with other seniors. As we get older, we retire, we have time to spend time being active and enjoying the interventions which are tailor-made for our age group as seniors so that we are able to continue living in community, aging in place. So I would say to all our Indian community, there are these two major initiatives that the government has launched. We need to be a part of it. We need to contribute to it, and all the community organizations, rally your members, your respective community members to subscribe to these interventions offered by Healthier SG and Age Well SG. Sign up for these interventions and, the government can do so much. Okay. And it's when we get both hands to clap, then we will see these decisive outcomes. So that's what I would say to the Indian community as far as health care is concerned, as far as issues of the elderly is concerned.
Well,
In the larger aspect of the Indian community, We've already got, pinnacle organizations like Cinda that are doing a great job. You know, uh, education, we cannot overemphasize the importance of education, you know, um, making sure that our children take full advantage of the fantastic education system that Singapore offers, and being the best that they can be, whichever field they choose to excel in, you know, if we do that and do that well, I think we have our place in the sun. In this country, everyone has a place. That's what our founding prime minister said. That's the cardinal principle on which the Singaporean Singapore has been envisioned. And that's what will continue to propel us into the future.
Well said. Dave, you have been in the community service, if I can say that, for a good number of years. And I also mentioned earlier that this BISMI channel is listened by uh, a good spectrum of people from various demography, including youth. Uh, I would like your message or some statements to them with regards to career in this space. There are some jobs that people like to and want to be associated with, and there are some jobs that not so much. Um, would you think there are career opportunities in the industry that you are in? And if so, what would they be?
Oh, yeah, look, if you look at the world over, okay, with, maybe the possible exception of India, which is still enjoying what they call the youth dividend, all the other countries, the major countries, even China, are beginning to see declining birth rates and people living longer. That means more seniors, around them, and seniors who are living longer. So definitely, the aged care sector is a sector which offers tremendous possibilities, whether it be, in nursing or allied healthcare vocations like physiotherapy, occupational therapy, you know, social work, counseling, for psychologists. There are n number of opportunities in this sector, not just in Singapore, but around the region and indeed across the world. So this is one sector where there are tremendous career opportunities and great opportunities, for career advancement. So I would say, to the youth in the Indian community, pay attention to the space and watch this space, and at our end, if anyone wants to have, some advice on in the career opportunities in the healthcare sector, in the elder care sector, SNM is happy to, provide information and advice. But certainly there are opportunities in the healthcare sector and specifically in the aged care sector.
Good, Dave. That is very interesting because the demand is there and it will continue to rise. So it's whether the youth would equip them with the necessary skill sets and education to ride the wave. I think they would definitely be, I would say, a large number of personnel required in this industry in the various areas you mentioned. I think we're approaching the last few questions, and I would like to ask you, um, although we already know the answer, but if you had to rewrite your life again, would it be the same journey or would you have taken a different path?
Um, that's a difficult question to answer because if you ask me, did I enjoy my career in the armed forces? I would say yes, I did. What I would do differently, and this is something I'd like to, I've said to my children, and I'll say to the young listeners out there, um, you need to know people. You need to know people who know people who know people. The more people you know, and frankly, today with social media, I think a young person, age 21, knows a lot more people than we did, at that same age, decades ago. When you get to meet people, you will find that there are so many opportunities out there, in industries which maybe, didn't exist decades ago, but which now exist, you know, thanks to, technology and now with artificial intelligence and all of that, new industries, new opportunities are coming up every day. And the way to keep abreast of this is to go out and get to know people, get involved, with your community, get to know people, keep open. All right. Remember that, in the years ahead, it is not enough to stay employed. You need to constantly be reinventing yourself to stay employable, and I'll go one step further, not just to stay employable, but to be in a position to create jobs. That if I was to do it again, I would maybe want to seriously look at what I could do differently to be in a position to create jobs for other people. Without a good education, without a good job, the rest of life becomes that much more challenging. And to be in a position to create opportunities, for others to earn a livelihood, I think, and be in a position to make sure no one gets left behind. I think that is what gives life its fullest meaning. So, if I was to do it differently, I would get out and, meet more people, be ready to, try new things. I have told this to my children. I said, my time growing up, and I come from a typical middle class family. It was, I must go to school, finish primary school, secondary school, junior college or polytechnic, and then go to university, get a degree, and then get a job. But today, there are other paths to success, you know, and I think as a community, we all need to appreciate that there are other paths to success, that there are different peaks of excellence, that every child in our community has a talent, has God-given talent, you know, as parents, as family, as as friends in society, give every child the opportunity to polish that talent and become the best that they can be.
Great, Dave. I seriously think we could go on for hours. I've learned so much from you today's session, despite having known you for many years. So that was very good sharing, and I want to thank Bismi for giving us this opportunity. We hope listeners would look up Sri Narayana Mission. They are religiously agnostic, so they serve Singaporeans, and they're doing a wonderful job. And I thank Bismi once again for this wonderful series, and we hope you would listen and share this Nam Sirappu Virindinar series to as many people as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you to Bismi for this opportunity.